The silence in our house was the first thing to die, long before the marriage did. It used to be a comfortable silence, you see, the kind woven from 25 years of shared jokes and unspoken understanding. We could sit for an hour in the living room, me with a book, Tom with the sports page, and the quiet was a warm blanket. But over the last year, the silence had grown cold and sharp, full of jagged, unsaid things. It was the silence of a man who had started locking his phone, of a husband who smelled of a perfume that wasn't mine, of a partner whose eyes slid past me as if I were a piece of furniture he'd grown tired of. My name is Mary, and for 25 years, I was what you'd call a good wife. I was the steady foundation upon which Tom built his world. When he wanted to start his own contracting business, I cashed in my own small inheritance, the money I had earmarked to one day open a small bakery, and I handed it to him with a smile. "Go build your dream, honey," I'd said. And he did. I managed the books, answered the phones in the early days, and packed his lunches. I raised our 2 children, who were now grown and gone, in the beautiful house his success had bought us. I was the reliable bedrock, the one who remembered birthdays and anniversaries, the one who knew exactly how he liked his coffee. I had poured my entire life into the vessel of our marriage, never realizing it had developed a crack. The crack had a name, and her name was Tiffany. She was 26 years old, a receptionist at the luxury car dealership where Tom had recently bought a ridiculous red sports car he couldn't comfortably get in or out of. She was all long blonde hair, impossibly white teeth, and the kind of casual cruelty that only youth and beauty can bestow. I found out about her the way most wives do, through a credit card bill I wasn't supposed to see. A charge for a ridiculously expensive necklace from a jeweler I'd never heard of. When I confronted him, he didn't even have the decency to lie. He just looked at me with those tired, guilty eyes and sighed, as if I were the one creating the inconvenience. "Mary, we need to talk," he'd said, and my world tilted on its axis. The conversation that followed was a masterclass in blame-shifting and quiet brutality. He spoke of feeling stifled and old. He said he needed a new chapter, and that I was a part of his old one. Tiffany, he explained, made him feel alive. "It's not your fault you got old, Mary," he'd said, a line so perfectly rehearsed and devastating that I knew Tiffany must have fed it to him. It just happened. We grew apart. We hadn't grown apart. He had sprinted in the other direction, chasing a phantom version of his own youth. The divorce was swift and merciless. Tom, guided by Tiffany's avaricious whispers and a shark of a lawyer, was not content to simply leave. He needed to win. He claimed the business was his alone, conveniently forgetting my initial investment. He claimed the house, our home of 2 decades, was his asset. He fought me on the savings, the retirement accounts, everything. His goal was to leave me with just enough to be humbled, just enough to prove that without him I was nothing. And I, exhausted and heartbroken, let him. I just wanted it to be over. I agreed to walk away with my old car, my personal belongings, and a meager settlement that wouldn't last 6 months. Tiffany would move into my home, sleep in my bed, and use the kitchen I had designed. The thought was a physical pain, a hot poker to the chest. The last few weeks before the divorce was finalized were a special kind of hell. I was a ghost in my own home, packing my life into cardboard boxes while Tiffany would occasionally visit, wandering through the rooms with a proprietary air, pointing out walls she was going to have painted and furniture she was going to replace. She spoke to me with a cloying false pity that was worse than outright hatred. "I really hope you land on your feet, Mary," she said one afternoon, watching me wrap the wedding china. "It must be so hard to start over at your age." She would say things like that in front of Tom, and he would just stand there silent, his spine having been surgically removed. It was during that final soul-crushing week that it happened. Our little ritual, the one thing we'd kept up for over 20 years, was buying a lottery ticket every Friday. Tom had always done it using the same numbers, our anniversary, our kids' birthdays. It was a silly, hopeful little habit, a shared dream of what we'd do if he had stopped buying them months ago, of course. His dreams were now focused elsewhere. But I hadn't. Out of pure stubborn habit, I had continued to buy my own ticket every week with my own set of numbers. It was a secret act of defiance, a $5 investment in a future that was solely mine. I was in my nearly empty bedroom, sorting through a box of old papers, when I found it tucked into a book, the ticket from the previous week. I'd forgotten to even check it. With a heavy sigh, I pulled up the lottery app on my phone, not with any real hope, but just as a way to procrastinate from the grim task of packing. I typed in the numbers. The screen lit up. "Congratulations, you are a winner." I blinked. It was probably a $50 prize. I'd won that once before. I looked closer, my eyes scanning the number on the screen, comparing it to the one on the ticket in my shaking hand. The numbers matched. All of them. The grand prize. $187 million. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there on the floor of my empty room, the winning ticket clutched in my hand, and a strange, profound silence descended. The cold, sharp silence of my dying marriage was replaced by a new kind of quiet. It was the silence of power. The silence of a secret that could change everything. My first thought was to run downstairs to wave the ticket in Tom's face, to show him the colossal mistake he was making. The settlement hadn't been finalized. By law, he would be entitled to half. But then I thought of Tiffany's smug smile. I thought of Tom's cowardice. I thought of his casual dismissal of our 25 years together. I thought of his words, "It's not your fault you got old." And in that moment, something inside me shifted. A quiet, resilient part of me that had been dormant for years woke up. This wasn't their miracle. This was mine. I stood up, walked to my closet, and tucked the ticket into a hidden pocket in my oldest purse. I took a deep breath. And then I went back to packing. For the next 5 days, I played the part of the broken, destitute woman. I let my lawyer agree to Tom's final, insulting settlement terms. I sat in the lawyer's office, my face a mask of weary resignation, as Tom and Tiffany sat across from me, looking triumphant. I signed the papers that legally severed my life from his, the papers that gave him everything he thought he wanted. The house, the business, the savings. Everything. The judge stamped the documents. It was done. I was officially divorced. And officially, magnificently, secretly rich. Tom walked me out to my car, a final perfunctory gesture. "No hard feelings, Mary," he said, patting my arm. "I really do wish you the best." "You too, Tom," I said, and for the first time in a year I smiled a real genuine smile. "I have a feeling things are about to get much, much better." He mistook my smile for brave acceptance. He had no idea. The first month of my new life was a blur of quiet, strategic moves. I claimed my prize through a trust managed by a top-tier financial lawyer to protect my anonymity. I rented a beautiful modern apartment in the city, a place with huge windows and a view of the skyline. I bought a new wardrobe, trading my sensible suburban mom clothes for elegant, tailored pieces that made me feel powerful. I didn't go crazy, I was smart. I hired a team of financial advisors. I invested. I planned. And I started to dream again. The little bakery I had always wanted? I could build it now, a state-of-the-art artisan bakery and cafe, in the best part of town. I spent my days meeting with architects and chefs, and my evenings rediscovering the woman I was before I had become simply Tom's wife. I was happier than I had been in a decade. About 3 months after the divorce, I was sitting in a chic downtown coffee shop, reviewing blueprints for my bakery, when the door opened and he walked in. Tom. He looked the same but somehow diminished. The expensive suit seemed to hang off him a little, and there were new lines of stress around his eyes. He didn't see me at first. He was arguing on his phone. What do you mean the payment was declined, Tiffany? I transferred the money this morning. No, I'm not calling you a liar, I'm just saying. He spotted me then. His face registered a flash of surprise, then a flicker of pity, quickly masked by his old arrogance. He ended his call and sauntered over to my table. Mary. Wow. Small world, he said, his eyes scanning my new clothes with a hint of confusion. You're looking well. I'm feeling well, Tom, I said, my voice calm and even. Good. I was a little worried about you, you know, he said, pulling up a chair without being invited. It's tough out there. But hey, I'm doing great. The business is booming. Tiffany and I are thinking of taking a trip to Tuscany next month. She's redecorating the house, you know. Has a real eye for design. It's looking fantastic. He was bragging, trying to rub my nose in the life he had chosen. The life he had stolen from me. The old Mary would have shrunk under the weight of his words. The new Mary just took a slow sip of her latte and listened. That's nice for you, Tom, I said when he finally paused for breath. Yeah. So what have you been up to? Found a little place, have you? Working, I hope? He asked, the condescension dripping from his voice. I'm working on a new project, yes, I said. I'm opening a bakery, actually. It's called The Daily Bread. I decided against anything too on the nose. My success would be my statement. He blinked. A bakery? That's cute. Good for you. Finding a little hobby to keep you busy. He leaned in, lowering his voice. Listen, Mary, if you're ever in a tight spot, you know, for a few bucks, don't be too proud to ask. I'd be happy to help you out. For old time's sake. It was the perfect moment. The absolute, cinematic, once-in-a-lifetime perfect moment. I smiled at him, a warm, genuine smile. That's very sweet of you to offer, Tom. But I think I'll be okay. The waitress arrived with my bill. Before she could set it down, I reached into my new designer purse and pulled out my wallet. I didn't pull out a regular credit card. I pulled out the Amex Centurion, the legendary black card, made of titanium, reserved for the ridiculously wealthy. I handed it to the waitress, who blinked at it with wide eyes. Tom stared at the card, his brow furrowed. He had seen one once years ago when a major client had taken him to dinner. He knew what it was. He knew what it meant. Where did you get that? He stammered. Oh, this old thing, I said lightly. It's just more convenient than carrying cash. He looked from the card to my expensive handbag, to my perfectly tailored blazer. The pieces were starting to click together in his mind, but they weren't forming a picture that made any sense to him. He was still trying to process it when a sleek black Mercedes Maybach, a car that made his little red sports car look like a child's toy, pulled up to the curb outside. A uniformed driver stepped out and opened the rear door for me. That's my ride, I said, gathering my things. It was interesting seeing you, Tom. I stood up and walked toward the door, leaving him sitting there, his mouth slightly agape. I could feel his eyes on my back. I knew he wouldn't be able to resist. Mary, wait, he called out, following me onto the sidewalk. What the hell is going on? That card. Did you get remarried? Did you find some rich old guy? I turned to face him, the cool city air on my face. No, Tom. I didn't find anyone. I found myself. What does that even mean? How are you paying for all this? His voice was getting louder, a note of frantic desperation creeping in. I decided to give him the final piece of the puzzle. Do you remember our lottery tickets, Tom? The ones we used to buy every Friday. His face went pale, a sickly grayish white. What about them? You stopped buying them. I didn't, I said, my voice quiet but clear. I won, Tom. A few days before you and I signed the papers. $187 million. He stared at me, his face a perfect mask of horror and disbelief. I could see him doing the math in his head. I could see him realizing that if I had won just 1 week earlier, half of that unimaginable fortune would have been his. I could see the life he thought he had, the life with Tiffany and Tuscany, crumbling to dust around him. "No," he whispered. "No, you're lying." "Am I?" I gave him one last pitying look. "Goodbye, Tom." I slid into the cool leather interior of the Maybach. As the driver closed the door, I saw her. Tiffany. She had just come around the corner, probably on her way to meet Tom. She saw the car. She saw me inside it. She saw the look of utter devastation on Tom's face. And in that instant, I saw the cold, hard calculation in her eyes. I didn't need to be there to know what happened next. I found out a month later, through a mutual acquaintance. Tiffany had left him the very next day. When she realized he hadn't just divorced his wife, but had divorced a future of unimaginable wealth, his midlife crisis and dwindling business funds were no longer appealing. He had been forced to sell the house, my house, because he couldn't afford the mortgage and Tiffany's lifestyle on his own. He had called me, of course, dozens of times. He'd left tearful, rambling voicemails, begging for a second chance, talking about our money. I never answered. I never called back. My bakery, the Daily Bread, opened 6 months after that. It was an instant success. I spent my days covered in a light dusting of flour, the scent of fresh bread and pastries in the air, surrounded by a team of people I respected. I had created a new life, a new home, a new dream, and I had done it all myself. Sometimes when a customer pays with a lottery ticket, I smile. I know the odds are astronomical. I know that miracles are rare. But I also know that sometimes the universe has a funny way of balancing the books. Tom thought he was leaving me with nothing, but in the end he was the one who was left with exactly what he deserved. And me? I was left with everything. Not just the money, but the sweet, sweet knowledge that the best revenge isn't loud and angry. It's quiet, successful, and lived beautifully. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.